That I would do some reading from some more source material. So today I want to read from the Communist Manifesto, Chapter 2. In what relation? Oh, excuse me, the chapter is titled Proletarians and Communists. In what relation do the communists stand to the proletarians as a whole? The communists do not form a separate party opposed to the other working class parties. They have no interests separate and apart from those of the proletariat as a whole. They do not set up any sectarian principles of their own by which to shape and mold the proletarian movement. The communists are distinguished from the other working class parties by this only. 1. In the national struggles of the proletarians of the different countries, they point out and bring to the front of the common interests of the entire proletariat, independently of all nationality. And 2. In the various stages of development which the struggles of working class against the bourgeoisie has to pass through, they always and everywhere represent the interests of the movement as a whole. The communists, therefore, are on the one hand practically the most advanced and resolute section of the working class parties of every country, that section which pushes forward all others. On the other hand, theoretically, they have over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions, and the ultimate general results of the proletarian movement. The immediate aim of the communists is the same as that of all other proletarian parties: formation of the proletariat into a class, overthrow of the bourgeoisie supremacy, conquest of political power by the proletariat. The theoretical conclusions of the communists are in no way based on ideas or principles that have been invented or discovered by this or that would be universal reformer. They merely express, in general terms, actual relations springing from an existing class struggle, from a historical movement going on under our very eyes. The abolition of existing property relations is not at all a distinctive feature of communism. All property relations in the past have continually been subject to historical change consequent upon the change in historical conditions. The French Revolution, for example, abolished abolished feudal property in favor of bourgeoisie property. The distinguishing feature of communism is not the abolition of property generally, but the abolition of bourgeoisie property. But modern bourgeoisie property is the final and most complete expression of the system of producing and appropriating products that is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of the many by the few. In this sense, the theory of communists may be summed up in the single sentence: Karl fucking Marx's own words, yo! Sorry, I broke character for a minute, but I'm going to just say this again. In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in the single sentence: abolition of private property. The Communist Manifesto, Chapter 2, page fucking I don't know, what page because it's just my tablet, but I haven't been reading that long. This is like page 1 or 2. Okay, let's see if I'll just read a little bit more. We communists have been reproached with the desire of abolishing the right of personally acquiring property as the fruit of a man's own labor, which property is alleged to be the groundwork of all personal freedom, activity, and independence. Hard won, self acquired, self earned property. Do you mean the property of petty artisan and of the small peasant, a form of property that preceded the bourgeoisie form? There is no need to abolish that. The development of industry has, to a great extent, already destroyed it, and it is still destroying it daily. Or do you mean the modern bourgeoisie private property? But does wage labor create any property for the laborer? Not a bit. It creates capital, i.e., that kind of property which exploits wage labor and which cannot increase except upon condition of begetting a new supply of wage labor for fresh exploitation. Property, in its present form, is based on the antagonism of capital and wage labor. Let us examine both sides of this antagonism. To be a capitalist is to have not only a purely personal, but a social status in production. Capital is a collective product, and only by the united action of many members, nay, in the last resort, only by the united action of all members of society can it be set in motion. Capital is therefore not only personal, it is a social power. When, therefore, capital is converted into common property, into the property of all members of society, personal property is not thereby transformed into social property. It is only the social character of the property that is changed. It loses its class character. Let us now take wage labor. The average price of wage labor is the minimum wage, i.e., that quantum of the means of subsistence which is absolutely requisite to keep the laborer in bare existence as a laborer. What, therefore, the wage laborer appropriates by means of his labor merely suffices to prolong and reproduce a bare existence. We by no means intend to abolish this personal appropriation of the products of labor, an appropriation that is made for the maintenance and reproduction of human life, and that leaves no surplus wherewith to command the labor of others. All that we want to do away with is the miserable character of this appropriation, under which the laborer lives merely to increase capital and is allowed to live only insofar as the interest of the ruling class requires it. See now, I don't disagree with everything Karl Marx says, which is frustrating because we could be having some pretty fantastic conversations culturally around our current class structure and how the disparity is inhumane as well as not justifiable with all of the technology that modernity has presented us with. And so while I'm highly, 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 highly critical of Karl Marx, the racist, I'm open to having a conversation around how to build a better society because, yeah, I don't like what I'm seeing in our communities. It breaks my heart. And I know that things could be better for a lot of people. There will always be a class system, but we can build a society where even our lowest class citizens are still living a pretty good fucking life. We can do it. It is not for lack of ability to collaborate and cooperate as humans. It is because we have been manipulated and controlled by these ruling elites that Karl Marx talks about for centuries, even more than that, for thousands of years. You might hear a train, whatever. Uh, the domination of civilization, of humanity, is something that uh, we have been dealing with since we have been humans. Whether we evolved or were created, it's part of our existence. Thank you for listening. Much love.